So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining here. So, good to see you. So maybe let's start by generating the good motivation, since we are discussing a Mahayana text. So please, in your heart, develop bodhicitta, the wish to attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Yeah, so please start with that for 1 minute or so, and then we continue. Okay, thank you. Oh, I need to have the root verses. So we are in chapter 5. So of course we are studying Bodhicaryavatara. So we are trying to get familiar with the style of the Bodhisattvas, how they think, how they feel, how they view things, how they act, how they contemplate, how they meditate. And that is taught in Shantideva's Bodhicaryavatara. And since a couple of months, I think we are already going through this 5th chapter. So let me find it. And today we are completing that chapter. I promise that. I think last time I was already aspiring that, but successlessly, I didn't manage to do so. So, but today there are not many verses left. Let's see. I'm just looking for the root verses here, sorry. Yes. Okay, in case you didn't study Bodhicaryavatara so much yet, the whole idea here is that I would say the main practice starts with chapter 6, actually, where we start to practice patience, then diligence, meditation, and wisdom. This is chapter 6, 7, 8, 9. And so these are parameter 3, 4, 5, 6. And then in the 10th chapter, we practice dedication, which is actually the first parameter, generosity. And in order to enable us to do all that, we need a proper discipline. That means outwardly, we should keep the Shravaka discipline of not harming anyone. Then in our heart, we should have the Bodhisattva discipline of wanting to help everyone. And then, secretly, we can keep our Vajrayana Samayas. So this is sort of what is necessary to practice the Bodhisattva path. And in order to keep these 3 types of vow, we need the discipline. And for that, we need the qualities that are explained here in chapter 4 and 5. So the other way around, chapter 4 and 5 talk about mindfulness, about awareness, about vigilance, and that thus we are enabled to keep our vows, to have a proper conduct, and then based on that we can practice patience, diligence, meditation, and wisdom for the sake of the sentient beings. So in other words, we are in chapter 4, we have covered chapter 4, and we are now in chapter 5, and there we have already talked a lot about the importance of conscientiousness, mindfulness, and vigilance. And we are actually in verse 102, where Shantideva is now also introducing the importance of having a spiritual friend. But maybe just because it's such a nice verse, we could go back to the verse 101. And I will try to share that one. Because it is actually something to remember, or something maybe even to memorize, because it encapsulates the whole Bodhisattva journey, where it says here in verse 101, whether directly or indirectly, I should not do anything that is not for the benefit of others. And solely for the sake of sentient beings, I should dedicate everything towards awakening. Yeah, I think that says it all, right? So either we directly do something for somebody, like doing the dishes of somebody, or driving somebody, giving some food to somebody, or some money. That is like a direct help, or maybe also giving our time and listen to somebody. Or indirectly, like if we do retreat, if we are in a secluded place, in the wild woods somewhere, and practicing there, that maybe at the moment doesn't look like really helping somebody, but since we get closer to enlightenment and to Buddhahood and have less kleshas, therefore in the long run that will really benefit a lot of beings. So whether we do this help directly or indirectly, we should always focus on helping others and to benefit others with whatever we do. And of course, our motivation is not always that good or that pure or that all-encompassing. So there might be many selfish agendas behind, or maybe we only want to benefit certain group of people. And yes, that is important to notice and to check with our introspection, for example. But then it's also important to then upgrade our motivation, or to make our motivation larger and bigger, and so that everybody is accommodated in our motivation. And then it says, and solely for the sake of sentient beings, I should dedicate everything towards awakening. So of course we dedicate our material things, when we practice the first type of generosity. So we dedicate whatever we have, our belongings, or also of course time and fearlessness and all of that. But then most importantly, we also dedicate all our merit, all our practices that we are doing for the one single goal, to attain Buddhahood, to be able to help sentient beings in a better way. That is always our main aim as a Bodhisattva, that we want to be of benefit to the world, to the beings, and the method to do so is to attain Buddhahood. Because if we are imprisoned, then it's difficult. If we are imprisoned in samsara, then it's more difficult to liberate others. But if we are out of samsara, then we can really benefit others much better. So this is 101. And this we have discussed last time already. But just for the sake of the importance of it, I wanted to go back to it. There's Marina is writing, Arne, can you please speak a little bit about retreat situation more? If you are not around people, even though introspection can one... Wait, I just copy it and it's easier because it was only sent to me. Wait, how do we do it today? I can just send it here, right? To everyone. So, can you please speak a little bit about retreat situation more? If you're not around people, even though introspection can one feel disconnected from others. Like right now with COVID, sometimes practice feels a bit abstract since I'm not around people as much. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I mentioned it, right? This indirect help. Yeah, I think there's always the discussion, what is better to do, be socially engaged and really help beings, or being in a cave somewhere in the Himalayan mountains, and practice there. Like sometimes this is the question, what is more beneficial? And usually my answer is maybe if one is not sure, then maybe it's good to do both, sometimes this and sometimes that. And now, since we are a little bit forced by the government or by a virus to live a little bit more retreatish in a lockdown and social distancing, then definitely that is a good situation and occasion that we should use, so that we use that time in a good, constructive way, by perceiving it like a retreat and making it a retreat. Of course, the only retreat boundary, of course, is whether one is aware or not. That is sort of the most important thing of a retreat. But since this is difficult, there is an importance of really being in a secluded place or being isolated, because if one has like an outer boundary, that really helps ourselves to focus and on what we really want to do. And it also helps our mind to calm down and be more aware. So therefore, like an outer retreat situation, like either forced by the virus or the government now, or a retreat situation that we intentionally choose, both of them we can use in the same way, that we try to really focus, basically, that we really try to look into our mind and check what is really, really most important in our life. What is really what we really want? What do we think? What is really beneficial to do? And and what is really the best method to do so? I think that is good, in case that is not clear yet. And in case we think, okay, the Buddhist methods or the Buddhist path is helpful to do so, then of course there are many, many instructions, what to do in retreat. And I don't think we can go through many of this here. But usually, if you are in a retreat situation, then it's good to do it like in 4 sessions per day. So that at least like 8 hours we are dedicating every day, one before breakfast, and then we have breakfast, and then we have 2 sessions, then lunch, 1 session, and dinner. And so that this is really our main priority, and we sort of renounce to be too much connected to the outside, and maybe we only have like a small list of people that we are communicating with during that time of retreat. All that can help to focus ourselves. But then all of this is never done, like a retreat, because that is your concern here. This is never done to be disconnected to sentient beings. That was maybe your main thing, and that I should have said maybe earlier. So the whole retreat situation is, of course, always colored and flavored by bodhicitta, so that we do that retreat. It doesn't matter if it's forced by the government and the current situation, or if we intentionally do it. The main thing is always that we train our mind, that we progress on the spiritual path to Buddhahood, and we do that only for the sake of sentient beings. So therefore, whatever we do in that retreat situation, whatever we practice, whatever sadhana we recite, whatever mantras we chant, whatever meditation we do, whatever prayer we do, like we should always have that so strong in our mind that we only do these things to train our mind, to overcome obscurations, to increase qualities, to be more able to benefit beings. And I think if we constantly remind ourselves before such a practice, and if we are aware of that, why we are practicing, and then in the end that we are also reminding ourselves when we are dedicating the merit of the practice, that this is the sole aim of the practice, I think then we will not feel so disconnected to sentient beings. And for me personally, also Tonglen helps a lot to practice Tonglen. You know, this, I think that also you feel the connection with others because you're, from your heart, you really take on their suffering and give them all the good things you have. Sorry, that was a way too long answer and too long-winded. So, and then to come back to the text, to do all that, like retreat or whatever Bodhisattva activity, an authentic spiritual friend is indispensable. So, and that's why the next verse is 102, where Shantideva is talking about a spiritual friend. Never, even at the cost of my life, should I forsake a spiritual friend who is wise in the meaning of the great vehicle and who is a great Bodhisattva practitioner. So, we know, of course, in Vajrayana that a spiritual friend is of utmost importance. And in Vajrayana, we call this person a guru. But also in Sutrayana, a teacher is very, very important. And here, it is translated as a spiritual friend. Usually in Sanskrit, it is Kalyana Mitra. Or in Tibetan, you can, actually, if you condense it in Tibetan, it just means geshe. You know, geshe, like what we know, from the Khenpo's geshe. That is a friend of virtue. And here, when we talk about that in this context here in Mahayana, then Shantideva here in the last two lines is really defining what a spiritual friend is, an authentic spiritual friend is in Mahayana. And he gives, in the last two lines, he gives the definition, which is who is wise in the meaning of the great vehicle and who is a great Bodhisattva practitioner. So these two qualities, they need to come together. Shall I show it again, or do you have the verse in front of you? Wait, maybe I should just show it once more. So here, Shantideva is clearly saying the two qualities, who is wise in the meaning of the great vehicle and who is a great Bodhisattva practitioner. So this is how Shantideva is defining a proper Mahayana teacher. So the first thing is he or she should be very well versed and very learned in the scriptures of Mahayana, and really know the theory and all the Dharma that is connected to that. But then the second point shows that it's of course not enough just to know stuff, just to have them intellectually in your mind, but then also that person should be a great Bodhisattva practitioner. So this person should really practice what she or he is preaching, like really walking the talk or something like that. So this person should be really performing all the activities and practices of bodhisattvas. So should not only know what to do and what to avoid, but really do it and avoid it, even if that is sometimes inconvenient or difficult, this person should be always loyal to the two truths, basically. So that is the definition. And of a Mahayana Lama, and Shantideva is saying, yeah, if you meet somebody like that, somebody who's that authentic and that qualified, then in the first line, yeah, don't let that person go, because once it's so rare to find somebody like that. So therefore, even at the cost of your life, don't let that person go. That is a very common expression, even at the cost of my life. Yeah, it's you can debate if that should be taken literally or not, but it means really that you put so much importance into that relationship between the teacher and yourself, and also that you understand that the teacher has a bigger project with you than has a project with you that is bigger than your life. Your teacher is not so much concerned about the happiness that you experience in this life, but an authentic teacher is hopefully only concerned about your enlightenment, only concerned about your Buddhahood. So that is much bigger than this one single life. So we can sort of see from there why sometimes this sentence is said, even at the cost of my life, I will not give up the spiritual friend. And of course, I'm sure you have read and listened to many teachings about how to find a spiritual friend, and there are many lists and many qualities, and then there's also many years are mentioned, how long you should check the spiritual friend, and then after that, how long she or he should check you. And many teachers say, yeah, because classically, I think it's 12 years you are checking the teacher, and then 12 years the teacher is checking you. So that is 24 years from now if you start today. So that might be not so practical, some teachers say. So therefore therefore the message here is take it seriously and check properly and don't rush. And Doturko is also adding often, don't follow somebody just because he wrote a good book, or he translated a good book, but really look at the qualities of that teacher. And Shantideva describes the qualities, and that means actually that the teacher is really interested in your enlightenment, not in your money, not in your whatever, your body even, but really only interested in your enlightenment. So that is a teacher we should try to find, and then rely on this person. And then to continue with the teacher thing, 103 is saying, I should practice entrusting myself to my spiritual master in the manner taught in the biography of Sri Sambhava. This and other advice spoken by the Buddha I can understand through reading the sutras. So here it is, it's stressed, how important it is to really follow a spiritual teacher, and how also an example, how to do so. And the example here is given the biography of Sri Sambhava. Wait, maybe because that is always a little bit difficult, I will open a new document. So this should work. Sorry, I like to screen share a lot today. So I think you see an empty document now. So when we talk about Sri Sambhava, then that is a boy actually. Then please also remember Srimati, she's a girl. Because they appear together. And where do they appear? They appear in this sutra, Avatamsaka Sutra. It was mentioned sometimes already by Shantideva, and this is also one sutra that 84,000 has translated. And in that sutra, there is a chapter that is called Gandhavyuha. And since that chapter is so big, it's even called a sutra. So it is Gandhavya Sutra. So, and in that sutra, there we have our hero, and this hero is called Sudana. Sorry. So that is our hero here in that sutra. And so I forgot how it started, but he was sent, I think, either by Maitreya or by Manjushri to his spiritual journeys. So he left and traveled, and then he found altogether 53 teachers, and he learned from all of them a lot. And whenever he met one teacher, then he learned a lot from this female or male teacher. And then in the end, that teacher then is praising another person, which will be the future teacher of Sudana. So then he is traveling to find this next teacher and to study and learn and practice from and with this teacher. So Sudana has already found 49 teachers, and then the 50th teacher are these two, Sri Sambhava and Srimati. These were the 50th teacher of Sudana in that sutra. And as I said, there were a boy and a girl, and they told him a lot about the illusory nature of things, and also how we should respect the teacher. That's why Shantideva is mentioning that here. So, for example, they are telling him to understand that the teacher is so important, and that we should, as a student, we should have a mind that is like an earth, that is able to carry every difficulty, without being discouraged. Or they also say our mind should be like a vajra, that our motivation should not be distracted. Or they say, our mind should be like a lift, like an elevator, that we can carry every heavy load. Or our mind should be like a dog that is very loyal, and never getting angry. Or, so there are many of these sayings by these two to Sudana. And that's why Shantideva is mentioning it here. And then also in that passage, there's one very famous thing where it says that we should see the teacher as a doctor or nurse, and then ourselves as a patient who is sick, and then the teachings of that person as the prescription, that is the remedy that is prescribed by that doctor or by that teacher. And then taking the medicine equals to then doing the Dharma practice, like practicing or applying the instructions that we get. I'm sure you have heard that is quoted quite often. That comes exactly from that sutra in that passage. They also give other examples. For example, they say the teacher should be not seen as a doctor, but like a warrior. I don't know how to pronounce it. Somebody who's going to war, but with a noble heart, of course. And we should perceive ourselves as somebody who is frightened. And then the teachings should be seen as some weapon. And then our serious practice is to get rid of that enemy, of that inner enemy. So anyway, so there are like many instructions they gave to Sudana. And then in the end, they told Sudana to visit Maitreya, Bodhisattva Maitreya. And so Maitreya became the 51st teacher of Sudana. And then Maitreya sent him to Manjushri. And then Manjushri sent him to Samantabhadra. So these are like 53 teachers that Sudana was learning from. And that is given here as an example how we should follow and entrust ourselves to authentic teachers. And and also the story shows, how diligent Sudana was and how devoted Sudana was, how many difficulties he accepted on his journey. And he all did that in his quest to be of benefit for beings. Yeah. Is there anything to discuss on that, or is that clear? If there's anything you want to discuss, then just unmute yourself. If not, we continue. Okay. And then stop sharing this. And now we share the next verse. Arne, can you say why the teacher is discussed in this chapter on vigilance? That's a good question, Marina. I was also wondering that, because sometimes I wondered it the other way around. Sometimes because that verse is quoted quite often here, verse 102, in other contexts, and then when that is quoted in a live teaching, I thought, okay, the teacher now is quoting Shantideva about the importance of having a spiritual friend. And then I was really wondering, where is that actually mentioned by Shantideva? Because there is not really like one chapter about it. In Words of a Perfect Teacher, for example, or in Gampopa's Jewel Ornament of Liberation, there's like a proper chapter on it. Or in Jigme Lingpa's Treasury of Precious Qualities, there's one big section on it. So it's very clear, yes, the teacher is important, and he should it should be understood that the teacher is important, and we should find a teacher, and we should know the qualities of a teacher, and it is important to know how to rely on the teacher. But that is actually not so much in the Bodhicaryavatara. Yes, so I was really also wondering the same thing. Why is it not mentioned so much? And I was also wondering why it is mentioned here. I understand. When I thought about it, I thought we are here talking about different conditions that are important for our practice. And we have, for example, we have introspection, mindfulness, conscientiousness are very important in chapter 4 and 5. That is the main thing that it's talked about. And this is sort of the inner compass we need to develop, so that we have an inner navigation or GPS system, that we know what to do, what to avoid, and how to navigate through all these difficult things in our mind and in our lives. And I think the teacher is like the outer compass, it's like the outer navigation system that helps us also to navigate on our spiritual path. So in that sense, I thought maybe it makes sense to have it mentioned in this context of chapter 4 and 5. And then also, when I looked at the outline that Pato Rinpoche's disciple, Khenpo Kunsang Palden, is giving on chapter 5. Then first he talks a lot about how important it is to guard our minds while we implement the trainings. And then he is talking a lot about using mindfulness and introspection to really then guard our mind. And then he's also talking about how we train our mind through mindfulness and introspection. And in that context, he's talking about the 3 types of discipline, where we stop harming others, where we help others, and where we are gathering virtue. And then it's actually sort of complete. That is the 5th chapter. But then in the end, like this, where we are now, verse 97 to 109, he's just calling it other elements of a perfect practice. So these verses 97 to 109 of the 5th chapter are just labeled like that, other elements of a perfect practice. So here different topics are mentioned in these 13 verses that are not really so they look more like a collection of important points that Shantideva wanted to mention. For example, now Shantideva is mentioning the spiritual friend, and then he's going into texts that we should study or practice. And I thought it's like miscellaneous. I never know how to pronounce that word either. So he's just putting some very important points here in that category of other elements of a perfect practice. Yeah, that would be my answer to your question, but because I always also wondered a lot, actually. Okay, and then, now 104. Shantideva starts to talk about practices practices or sutras that we should read and study. And I'm sure you know, like Khenpo Rinpoche is always encouraging us to study properly, and Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche is always encouraging us to study, especially the treatises of Indian masters like Shantideva, or that we really go back to the sutras. That's why we have the 84,000 project. And Shantideva here is saying in 104, I should read the sutras because it is from them that the practices appear. To begin with, I should look at the Sutra of Akashagarbha. So in the 3rd chapter, we took the Bodhisattva vow, and then the 4th chapter, we developed conscientiousness, and in the 5th chapter, mindfulness and vigilance. And now is sort of the question, okay, how then do we keep these vows, or how do we then practice, or what do we do if we break these vows, or if we make mistakes, or if we harm others? And then Shantideva here is saying in 104, so therefore we should look into the Sutra of Akashagarbha. And Akashagarbha we already discussed, I think, in the 3rd chapter or so, or 2nd. It's one of the heart sons. They're like 8 heart sons of Buddha Shakyamuni, and Akashagarbha is one of them. And he's very, his main, activity is the purification. He's very skilled in that. And so therefore Buddha Shakyamuni also prophesied, if in the future there are some conflicts, we should really rely on the practice of Akashagarbha as a practice of purification. And you might have noticed in Tibetan tradition, Bodhisattva is more famous for that, right? Or more common. But I have heard in Chinese tradition, actually the sutra recitation is practiced more, and they do that still also as a practice, and also especially as a practice of purification. So that is also the idea here, that reading this sutra of Akashagarbha, which you can download from 84,000, it's not so long, that if we do that as a practice in the early morning before sunrise, then that is a purification practice, especially to purify regret and repair, confess, and all of that, the Bodhisattva vows. And you will also find in that sutra that that this was also the case. Wait, I can stop sharing here. That was also the case during Buddha Shakyamuni's time, you know, when Buddha had his retinue there and they were gathering. And then, Bodhisattva Akashagarbha also appeared, you know, and with a lot of light and a lot of blessing. And then Buddha was in his presence, you know, was praising Bodhisattva Akashagarbha, and Buddha was praising the activities of Akashagarbha and also how to practice on Akashagarbha, to invoke Akashagarbha's blessing. And then in the sutra also Buddha explained the different vows and precepts that we should keep and take, and then also how the practice of Akashagarbha then helps to repair any transgressions that we do in regards to these vows. And so therefore, as I said, this is really a practice that we can do. We can read that sutra in the morning, early morning before sunrise, and then we visualize, of course, the presence of Akashagarbha, and then also with that light, when the sun then shines, you know, we also visualize, you know, that the blessing goes to all sentient beings when the sun is dawning. But as I said, in Tibetan tradition, we are more used to Vajrasattva practice, which is, of course, equally effective. The main thing, and that will come in one of the next verses, where was that, is of course that we apply the 4 powers also that that we know from Vajrasattva practice, but I will come to that. Is all that clear? If not, just unmute yourself or write something. I just get something. Sorry. So, for the next verse, I need something. So next verse is here. In addition to the Akashagarbha Sutra, Shantideva is saying, I should definitely read the Compendium of All Practices again and again, because what is to be constantly practiced is very well and extensively shown there. And this Compendium of Practices is the Siksha Samuccaya. I don't know if you have heard that name. I can post it somewhere. Yeah, maybe I stop sharing this. And let's share something else. This one. So this is the Siksha Samuccaya. I hope you can read it. in case you're interested, I also have the Tibetan here. This is another text that Shantideva is suggesting. And it's called, the Compendium of All Practices. And that is what he's asking us to practice, to read here. And if you look at my video, it is this book, Siksha Samuccaya. And surprise, it's written by Shantideva. So this is a very old translation here. This is from 1922. So it's quite a different language, even though it's supposed to be English. So this is one of the three texts that Shantideva wrote, as you might remember. So the Siksha Samuccaya, the big one here that I have, there's also a new translation now. It is the longest version, and then the Bodhicaryavatara is the medium version, and the shortest one is the Sutra Samuccaya, which is not existent anymore. So we only have the Bodhicaryavatara as the middling version, and then the Siksha Samuccaya as the longest version. And here, if we look into the Siksha Samuccaya, we have, I think, 19 chapters. And they're, of course, also equally about the Bodhisattva path and what to practice and what to avoid. And actually, it's a little bit similar to the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva, because here in the Siksha Samuccaya, Shantideva is talking about 32 aspects that a Bodhisattva should train in. And just to summarize them, there are like 4 main points that Shantideva is emphasizing in this book. The first point is training in giving. That means we give our body, we give our time, our resources, our merits, everything. Second is guarding or protecting, so that we guard or protect our vows, our precepts, and our trainings. And the third one is purifying, so that we purify our mind. And then the fourth one is increasing. So that we that we increase or develop our mind state or mental continuum. So giving, guarding, purifying, and increasing. And so these are the main points that this book is talked about. And yeah, as you can see, it is not in verses, it's like prose, or how do you call it? So there's a lot of text. And I asked that, I think, already in the past. Apparently there are some commentaries, not really like a full commentary, but notes by Jetsun Kapa on that book that are even translated. If anybody can find that, please share that with me. I would like to read them. So Tsongkhapa's commentary on this book by Shantideva. And also what is special in this book is, of course, the Bodhisattva conduct is explained, but also especially negative or seemingly negative actions are explained, how to do them with a good intention. We talked about that also in the past, like sometimes we have to lie, or sometimes we have to steal, maybe, in order to benefit others. Like stealing, maybe like Robin Hood kind of mentality, or lying, you give a small lie for a bigger benefit, to protect others. And this is also mentioned, those things are mentioned quite a lot here. Okay, Natya is writing, how much is the range of Vajrasattva practice? Good afternoon, everyone. Natya, can you unmute yourself? What do you mean? with that? How much is the range of Vajrasattva practice?
I mean it like, how much can Vajrasattva purify? That's like the range, the scope of how much is possible. Like, I don't know, one mala, how is the range of that number for Vajrasattva practice?
Yeah. Here sometimes in the shops, we have like, this soap is against blood stains, and this soap is against ink stains, and this is
exactly
about greasy stains. Yeah. Interesting. So I think from Vajrayana point of view, like Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche is actually saying he's not so happy that we think Vajrasattva is only for purification, even though he is for purification, but he's much more. I mean, he's a complete Buddha, let's say. There are all qualities in it, but yes, he's used to purify. And yeah, we practice these 4 strengths, and we will come back to them later. And usually it is said Vajrasattva, because he is a Buddha and has all the qualities, therefore Vajrasattva practice can purify everything, and nothing is safe. Sort of no stain can survive. But then, yeah, I don't know how to prove that. And the question is also, you asked that, like 1 mala or 2 mala maybe. Ringo Tulku once said something interesting. He said, so when do you know that the purification has happened? That was a question he asked, I think, himself, and he answered it like, when you feel it. That was really his main answer, So you do Vajrasattva practice, apply everything that needs to be done in that practice. But then, when you really feel, okay, now the purification has happened, that's it. And then he says, have confidence that at that stage, then it is completed. Yeah, that is a very feeling-wise answer, but I liked it a lot. And for me, it worked. But if you read about Vajrasattva practice, they say, like 1 mala can purify like kalpas of negative karma. That's what they say.
Okay.
And Marina is asking, Arne, does the ornament of Mahayana Sutras, can you not write to publicly, everybody? Is that? Oh, sorry, that's why it's coming to me only. This strange setting. Does the ornament of Mahayana Sutras align with any of these sutras for Bodhisattva practices? Yes, the Mahayana Sutra Alamkara, right? Yes, Marina, why don't you think, why should it not align? It is I think it's very much in harmony, and actually I wanted to quote it earlier, but I forgot. But can you maybe clarify your questions, why you asked it? How does it align? Okay, I will think about it and answer it next time. That yeah. And then Jangshub asks, why do you need a commentary to the Shiksha Samuchaya? It's very expanded, understandable way. Yes, but still, it would be nice to see how Tsongkhapa was understanding it and emphasizing it, because Tsongkhapa didn't give a commentary to the whole thing, but he was emphasizing, I think, different parts of it. So I would be interested to see what he has to say on it. Okay, where are we? Where are we? Ah, yeah. 106 is coming. And I have to share it. Ta-dam. also I should sometimes look at the condensed compendium of all sutras, and I should make an effort to study the works by the same two titles composed by the exalted Nagarjuna. Yeah, he is getting a little bit complicated, but not really. So now we talked about the Siksha Samuccaya, this one. This we should read, and the Akashagarbha Sutra, don't forget that. And then also we should read the Sutra Samuccaya. That is what Shantideva is suggesting here. And the Sutra Samuccaya is this one. In Tibetan, Dokun Letupa. And that is the compendium of the sutras. And this is, as I said, this was the first, or not the first, the shortest work of Shantideva, which has, which apparently there were in a very condensed version, the activities of the Bodhisattvas have been presented, and that all based on the sutras, of course. I mean, of course, also in the Bodhicaryavatara, Shantideva is emphasizing that he's not really inventing something new, but he's actually making everything that you can find in the sutras. He just makes it more accessible or more practical. And there's also a text by Nagarjuna that is called Sutra Samuccaya. And this we can find in the Tenjur. We have the Kanjur and the Tenjur, and in the Tenjur, in the Shastra section, there we can also find this text by Nagarjuna, Sutra Samuccaya. But I have also heard that some people think it was written by Dzongsar Khyentse. Now when I say that, I'm wondering if that is true, if that can be true. When did Dzongsar Khyentse live? I think a little bit before Shantideva, no? Because only then that could make sense to think it could have been written by Dzongsar Khyentse. Dzongsar Khyentse. 7th century, yeah. So that is 600 something, and Shantideva is later, right? 685. Okay, anyway, so there's some dispute or some debate or discussion if this Sutra Samuccaya is really by Nagarjuna or if it's by Dzongsar Khyentse and is actually called Madhyamika Shastra Stuti. Anyway, most scholars say this is by Nagarjuna. And also Shantideva is saying that here actually, so let's believe in that. So this is, again, these are texts that also show the Bodhisattva practices and conduct in a very condensed way. So after Shantideva has now said we have to rely on a teacher, and he also showed us which practices to, or which texts to study, then he is saying in the next verse, 107, that of course studying is not enough, but it should be practiced. And that is said here in 107. I should do whatever is not forbidden in those works. And when I see a practice there, I should impeccably put it into action in order to guard the minds of worldly people. So, it sounds a little bit strange. I should do whatever is not forbidden in those works. Kanto Rinpoche once pointed that out. I think it was in Switzerland. She was teaching on the letter to a friend, by Nagarjuna, and she said that often the Buddhist discipline and vow is always phrased in a negative way. Don't do this, don't do that. just to counteract our habits. So discipline is most of the time, she said, explained like that. For example, we have the 10 non-virtuous actions, don't kill, don't steal, don't have sexual misconduct, and 7 more. This is much more often taught than the positive way, like save lives, practice generosity, practice a proper sexual conduct. And she said that is necessary that these are taught in that negating, negative way. Because it works better against our habit that wants to do those negative things. So therefore, here also Shantideva is saying like that, whatever is not forbidden, I will practice. And then, of course, there are sometimes also things are like positively encouraged. And then he says, I will also then, in the commentaries, it says here, then, of course, I will also practice whatever is encouraged in order to guard the minds of worldly people. That basically means to benefit beings. Yeah. But that is put here in the way, and I think we also talked about that in earlier advices here by Shantideva. The idea is we need to be inspiring. We need to inspire others. And here on that level of the Bodhicaryavatara, we are already bodhisattvas. So therefore, we need to be inspiring to others. We need to be somebody that other people put their trust in. So also on a smaller scale, when we are Buddhists, when we are the only Buddhist in a room with 9 non-Buddhists, I say 9 because nowadays in Germany you can only gather with 10 people maximum. So if we are in a room with 9 non-Buddhists and we are the only Buddhists, then people will look at us and really as if we are representing Buddhism, and maybe even representing our teachers and so on. So therefore, if we know that they look at us like this, we have to behave. We have to, give a good example of Buddhism or good example of our teacher. And likewise, here is what Shantideva wants the Bodhisattvas to do. If people know that you are a Bodhisattva, then, and you are representing Mahayana, if you are representing the Bodhisattva journey, then you have to be inspiring and you have to be trustworthy. And so, therefore, our aim is that people find us inspiring, that people find us trustworthy, and that people have faith in us. That is the aim. But again, it's not a selfish thing. It's not because they should trust me, but we want them to trust what we represent in this context. So it's not egocentric, but Buddha Dharma centric, the motivation. So our behavior should increase their trust in the Buddha Dharma. That is all, and that is the motivation also mentioned here. In the Sakya tradition, often we talk about the 4 ways of attracting beings. This attracting is similar, it's never meant to that I hope that people are attracted to me personally, but we want to attract them so that they're attracted to the Dharma and that they are inspired to study, contemplate, and practice the Dharma. That's what we are doing here. Or that we are aspiring here also. I think all these verses are not so cryptic, right? So there's not much heated discussion on them, but really feel free if you have anything to add or comment. What are those 4 ways, Danielle? So this is how we attract beings. And the first is generosity. So we give them things. Just give them a tea, and that is what people normally like, they like to get gifts. So giving giving stuff is the first. And then the second is giving, and then talking gently, talking pleasantly. That is also what people like. So these two are the first, so then they like to stay, they like to hang out with us. And it's never about us, we are the bridge, and then and that is of course not enough, but now they are hooked, basically. I think that is how Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche put it. So if you give them gifts and if you talk nicely to them, they are hooked. And now it starts, and now we give the Dharma. That means the third one is we talk in accordance to what they need. A little bit, of course, also to what they wish. Otherwise, they would not listen. But then we really talk what they need to hear. Now we really give them instructions or advice that is helpful to them. And then the fourth one is, we have to be authentic, but it's not said like that. The fourth one is we have to live in accordance to our words. So again, we have to walk the talk, what I said earlier. We have to practice what we preach. So we cannot, like since you, Danielle, asked, I cannot try to convince you to be vegetarian if I'm not a vegetarian. That will not be so convincing. Like Gandhi, I think he was always making sure that he's really living what he was saying, so before he said something, he made sure he was living it. Be the change. Yes, exactly. So he was always giving that good example first, and then he was preaching it. So these four, so I think classically they're mentioned like that. First is generosity, second is pleasant speech, third is teaching in accordance to the needs of the student, and the fourth one is only teach or having having your conduct in accordance to your teaching, something like that. And in the Sakya tradition, this is really like half of the Bodhisattva practice. The other half is 6 parameters. So it's really like a big thing, how they always present it. Practice the 6 parameters and practice the 4 means of gathering beings. And then the last list would be the motivation behind all that are the 4 immeasurables. And then that's actually it. And I think if we go back to one verse, I think here in 97, it is said, I'm still scrolling my screen, that's good. Also, I'm unable to practice all the limitless varieties of Bodhisattva conduct. I should certainly practice as much as has been mentioned here of this conduct that trains the mind. So in the commentaries to that verse 97, it is also mentioned, yes, in the Bodhisattva Pitaka, in all the sutras and shastras that teach the Mahayana, there are so many advice, so many suggestions, so many lists, and so many things to do. So you might feel lost, you might feel it's too much. And therefore the commentators say, okay, therefore, what is really the essence of all of that? So Shantideva is saying, yes, everything that I have said in the Bodhicaryavatara is the essence of all of that. Yes, that's true. And the commentators say, and if you want to put it into lists, yes, you have the 6 parameters, you have the 4 ways of gathering beings, and you have the 4 measurables. So if you have these intact, that is really what bodhisattvas should do. But we are already 107, 108, right? And now we are coming to the summary of this chapter. So 108 here is saying, the defining characteristic of guarding alertness in brief is only this: to examine again and again the condition of my body and mind. So here, please remember the whole chapter is called Guarding Alertness Session, and I will talk a little bit about that in the end. So this is this watchful introspection. That means to again and again, repeatedly look into, I don't know why speech is not mentioned here, look into whatever happens in our body, whatever we do with our body, whatever we do with our speech, and whatever happens in our mind. So we look, what is our body doing, what I'm acting, how I'm moving, how I'm behaving. And of course, we make sure that we don't do the three big things like killing, stealing, or sexual misconduct. But then there are also so many smaller things, with our body that could be harmful or hurtful to somebody. So we avoid all of them, and we make sure that with our body we are as much of benefit as possible. And then speech, definitely should be added here, I think. So we should check what is coming out of our mouth, every syllable, every word, every sentence, and make sure that this is not confusing or divisive or useless or harsh or dishonest. But the opposite, again, not, but we should try to make sure that it's the opposite, that it's honest, that it's bringing more harmony, that it's helpful, that it's clarifying and not confusing, and all of that. And then also we check our mind. And that is, of course, the most important thing, because the mind is always the place where the motivation comes from, why we act with body or speech. It always comes from the mind first. So therefore, the mind is very important to look at. And as long as somebody else is not a Buddha, he or she cannot check the motivation of my mind. So it is. So therefore, it's me who has to check my mind. That is my point. If we study the 59 slogans of 7 Point of Mind Training, there also somewhere it says, out of the two witnesses, rely on the better one or the most important one. Danielle, do you remember? Because you're nodding.
I think it was the greater of two witnesses.
Okay. So, for example, if I take you as an example, Danielle, I'm doing something and it looks maybe good because I'm giving some. This is juice, by the way, not wine. I give some juice to Jon. It's really juice, and so you, Danielle, you are impressed that I give something. But maybe in my mind, I'm not having a good motivation, because I'm just wanting to impress Rosa, for example, and so therefore, you are not the best witness in that example, sorry to say, of my action, because if you are not a Buddha, you cannot read my mind. So therefore, I'm my best witness, so I have to check my own motivation, and that is emphasized here. So please always check your own mind, your own motivation, because other people can only judge from the outside, basically, the action. And then the last verse here, also very clear, is therefore I shall put this way of life into actual practice, for what can be achieved by merely talking about it? Will a sick man be benefited merely by reading the medical texts? So after all these advice or suggestions that Shantideva gave, yes, they are all important. That is all the theory, that is all good. But then it is really, in the end, it needs to be applied. Here, medical text is said, in some commentaries, in the old commentaries, it says medical tantras, medicine Buddha tantras, or modern commentators, they say prescriptions. So if you are a patient, and you go to a doctor, and she or he is prescribing you medicine, then just reading the prescription or studying it, looking it up in Google will not help. I mean, will not cure you, It might help to get a better understanding, but it will not cure you. But the idea is, the medicine only helps. Chief of witness, thank you, Daniel. It will only help, the medicine will only help, of course, if you go to the pharmacy and then get the medicine and then take the medicine. So therefore the application is then the thing to do. And Jiangshi was saying, that's poetic, refer to the next chapter. Yes, because then in the next chapters, then we apply patience, diligence, meditation, wisdom. So as I said, it's very good to study all this. It's very good to have a good intellectual understanding, in our head, in our brain, have a good theory. But then we have to start the journey, to bring everything from the brain down to the heart, and really live it and really practice it. And that is, of course, a long journey, but that's what we have to do. Because we cannot become a Buddha by talking about stuff or by thinking about stuff, but it has to be practiced. It has to be integrated. It has to be assimilated. It has to become our nature. And to conclude this chapter, then it is so all these what we learn, all these advices, they can be summarized in the precepts of the 3 yanas. What I mentioned earlier, we have the Shravaka yana, and this is how we should behave outwardly, like we are not harming anyone with our body, speech, and mind. We have this 10 no's: not killing, not stealing, no sexual misconduct, no harsh words, no lying, no divisive speech, and so on. We have all these no. That's how we behave outwardly. And then inwardly, we keep the Bodhisattva vows, where we have the good heart of wanting to benefit beings. And there we have also 18 root vows and 46 minor vows. And then secretly, we then practice the Vajrayana Samayas. We keep this Vajrayana Samayas. And that is then to transform our mind, hopefully swiftly. And this should be enabled through these advices here of chapter 4 and 5. Okay, to summarize chapter 4 and 5, wait, let me maybe share something else again. And this is a little bit maybe confusing if we look at these chapters. So I think you can see this. So we need like different steps. First step is receiving teachings, I call it now. Normally it's listening, studying, and then especially about karma, that we know what to do and what to avoid. So this is the first step. And then in the second step is mindfulness. And this is remembrance. It's the same word in Tibetan. in Tibetan, it is called Drenpa. Drenpa. So that is the first thing. The second thing. So after we have received teachings and we have understood what to avoid and what to adopt, then here in the second, we don't forget what to. Wait, there's so many windows here. Why is that? What to avoid, adopt. That is the mindfulness, and that is actually taught in chapter 5 also. And then, so after we have learned, and then after we don't forget, then we need, again, chapter 5, we have this vigilance, or we can call it, what was it, introspection, or we call it alertness. This is session in Tibetan. I think some of you understand Tibetan. So, session. And here the main thing is checking body, speech, and mind. So there we check, oh yeah, and this is also chapter 5. So there we check in the next, in this third third step, we check our body, speech, and mind constantly, repeatedly, as earlier Shantideva said, and we see then if we are tempted to do something that is against what we should avoid and adopt. So we should see, oh, now I'm tempted to steal, for example, So we should notice that, or we are tempted to get angry or jealous, or we are tempted to use harsh words. And then comes the next thing, which is conscientiousness. This is in Tibetan. Bakye. And that means that is actually that's the whole chapter 4. And then there we recall benefits of virtue and how to call it, side effects of non-virtue, basically, or the disadvantages. So there we remember, it was better to not steal. It was better to give. It hurts somebody if I use harsh words, and then we don't follow our temptation that we have. So we remember what we have learned, and then based on that, then we can really practice the Bodhisattva path. And then we can practice the other chapters. Yeah. So this is how the whole Bodhicaryavatara could be understood. So first we understand in the first level what to do and what to avoid. Then with mindfulness, we don't forget that. And then with vigilance, we always check our mind and body and speech. Are we tempted to do something else? Are we maybe wanting to do something negative? And then with the fourth chapter, with the conscientiousness, we then have a pause in our mind and we reflect and recall, oh no, the virtue is good, and like being honest is good and lying is not good, or rejoicing is good and jealousy is not good, and of course not only like this dogmatically, but we really try to remember the teachings, why this is the case, and then that hopefully convinces us to stick to the virtuous side, to not lie but be honest, to not be jealous but rejoice, to, I don't know, be patient and not angry. So this helps us, and then we can really practice the next not verse but chapters. Then we can practice these next qualities of the Bodhisattva path. This is the idea how these chapters are structured. This is according to Pato Rinpoche's short commentary on the Bodhicaryavatara. Okay, Marina is asking, is there a good reference to all the Bodhisattva vows? In Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche's book on mind training, where he is explaining the 7 points of mind training, and within that the 59 slogans, in the appendix, there's actually, there are all these are listed. The Bodhisattva vows, the 18 root downfalls and the 46 secondary downfalls. It's in Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche's book. Wait, I stop this. Let me see how it's called. Just Google it. Or if somebody knows it by heart, then that's fine too. Look, Amazon. I think training the mind is called, let's see, training the mind, Trungpa, and practicing loving kindness or something like that. Yeah, training the mind and cultivating loving kindness. Here, I put it in the chat. That's, of course, a wonderful book. It's like Lojong teachings by Trungpa Rinpoche that are edited. They're from different seminars and they're put together in accordance to the 59 slogans. And then there's a question by Jang Shurp about Bagyo and Semni, if that is the same. I don't think so. Bagyo is really like conscientiousness. And you can also translate it as carefulness or heedfulness or concern. So that is more a mental factor that is happening in the mind, which was the fourth step, where you remember the advantages of virtuous actions and the disadvantages of non-virtuous actions. So that is more like a mental factor. But if you talk about Semni, Sem is mind and Ni is itself. So that is really the mind itself. That is talking more about the nature of mind, actually. So that is a totally different ball game. That is not mentioned here in this procedure that I wanted to show here in these 5 steps. The whole practice then is to recognize Semni, the nature of mind. But Bagyo is sort of only in quote unquote one of the mental factors that are to be trained in order to recognize Semni, or the nature of mind, later on. Of course, not later on, ideally now. Okay, I think that's about it for today. That sort of concludes the 5th chapter. Yesterday I was already calculating, but I forgot, of course. Yeah, I think it's exactly a third of the Bodhicaryavatara that is covered now, even though it's 5 out of 10 chapters that are covered. Chapter 6 is really big. Chapter 8 is really big. Chapter 7 is quite easy. It's just about diligence and laziness. But then chapter 9 is really big. So the idea with this discipline and with these factors of what was it? Mindfulness, vigilance, conscientiousness. We really know what to do and what to avoid. And as I said, this now we practice. In chapter 6, we avoid anger and we do patience, you know. In chapter 7, we avoid laziness and we do practice diligence. In chapter 8, we avoid distraction and we do meditation. And in chapter 9, we avoid ignorance or not knowing, and we practice wisdom. So we continue with this same structure, you know, and Shantideva is always showing first the side effects or disadvantages, for example, of anger in the 6th chapter, and then, you know, how destructive it is, and then he is introducing the importance of patience to counteract that problem. And in chapter 7, he is showing the 3 types of laziness and how unproductive we are if we are under their control. And then he is introducing diligence or enthusiastic, joyful effort. And he's giving different factors, you know, how to develop that enthusiasm. And then chapter 8, Shantideva is talking about first the problem of distraction, and therefore he is very nicely introducing the importance and the beauty of social distancing again, you know, of isolating ourselves, you know, in remote areas. There's also and Rosa knows that a very beautiful song by Longchenpa about that, you know, like where Longchenpa is inspiring us to go to the forest, to the wild woods, to have that isolation from the busy society. And also in the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, it's also emphasized, you know, to leave the homeland, to leave the usual place where all the emotions are stirring up. So that is first mentioned in the 8th chapter also, you know, the disadvantages of distraction and the importance of a remote area and isolation of body, speech, and mind. And then the meditation is introduced. And then in the 9th chapter, ignorance should be avoided, and then the wisdom is introduced a lot. And then the 10th chapter, yes, we avoid stinginess and practice dedication. Yeah, so that is the upcoming path and practice, and we will continue next Friday if you're interested. Sorry, there had to be a change of date. It was originally planned for Thursday, but then Nalanda Bodhi in Seattle had something where I need to attend. So therefore, we meet next Friday, if that is okay for you. And Katja is asking, yes, this will be recorded. Okay, sorry for talking so much today. And even though it was just few stanzas. And thank you for being here. Let me just find if I can see something here. Sorry, I'm a little bit disorganized today. No, I can't find it. Okay. So thank you very much for joining. And please, in your heart, do your dedication to dedicate all the good thing that happens in our mind and heart, you know, whenever we think about Shantideva and his teachings. And so please dedicate whatever merit came out of that to all sentient beings. And I say it, I think, every time, but please don't think only about the good beings, but especially the ones who create difficulties, in this world. They need merit and our positive energy even more. So please dedicate to all of them. And I have to stop because my blood sugar is so low I can't even think straight anymore. So thank you for joining, and if you like, see you next Friday. Take good care, and bye-bye.